Hello, Money Queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, listeners. Hello, Money Queens. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. I cannot wait to bring to you Mallika Malhotra, who is an award-winning brand strategist, mentor, and speaker. After years of working in corporate advertising on brands like L'Oreal, Oil of Olay, Mallika now helps women entrepreneurs get clear on their brand message, find their power niche, and become the sought-after expert. Her friends and clients call her the brand energizer. And I agree with this one because she's a strong believer in getting out of your comfort zone, taking action, and implementing ideas. When she's not helping to build brands, Mallika is drinking coffee or red wine. There you go. My type of lady, reading a stack of books, dreaming about her next global adventure. She lives in the very snowy right now, but beautiful Maine with her husband, 3 sons, and her mini Bernie doodle, Jax. He's got to be adorable.
He is. He's so adorable. And he's like my shadow everywhere I go. But yes, he definitely gives us a lot of comfort when you are stuck at home, right? And like in the cold, in the winter, he's awesome.
Welcome, Mallika. I love your setup behind you. It almost feels like heaven. It's so bright and white. There's amazing lighting in there. This has to be your studio that you're coming in from.
It is. Well, first, thank you so much for having me today. But yes, this is my studio here in Maine. You know, when I moved to Maine 3 years ago from New Jersey, it was a big shift for us. It was
I can't believe it's been 3 years already.
Yes, it's crazy. We moved right in the middle of the pandemic, which is never ideal. And one of the things in that transition, my husband was like, okay, I know you've always wanted a studio, but in New Jersey, it was so hard, right, to find the space. But here in Maine, a lot of the homes have barns on the property, and we had a barn. And he was like, all right, if we're going to move, we talked about this for you in the long term, the vision of having your own studio, and we created it. So
it's gorgeous.
This is like one of the perks of living in Maine is I finally have my own creative studio where I do brand photo shoots, where I can work out of. It's hard as an entrepreneur if you're working at home, right? If you don't have your own designated space. So it's nice to have a place that I can actually walk, 200 feet, have a separate door, a separate space to call my own.
I always called my office when I got one very close to my house. I'm only a few miles away from my home, but it was my sanctuary, my sane office. I mean, you can see I got big, bright peonies all around my conference room. And I just want a place that I get excited walking in through the door instead of staring at the laundry mess or the kitchen mess or the dishes stacking up, the distractions, or I could just be in this nice, fun, creative, loving environment. So I agree with you. Having kids at home, it's so much nicer to have your space.
Yes, to have your space, to have your own place where it doesn't bleed into the housework, just like you said. It's hard, and I did it for many years, and you do what you need to do. But it's definitely nice to have a place to call your own where you can shut the door, you have the quiet, and you can really, I feel like I've become more creative and more productive. And I love my business even more because I have my own space.
Yes. And it gives a sense of credibility behind it as well. Right now I have an office that I go to, and you're excited to have people come there for the brand photo shoots. And let's dive in because you are the brand strategist. So everything about you is so on brand, on point. It's meticulous. Everything feels and looks like you. And is that what it takes to have a brand?
Yes, I think there's a lot of factors of like having a powerful brand. First, it's like true clarity of knowing who you are, what you believe in, infusing your personality, leveraging your skills. It takes, confidence, right? To actually show up and put that stake in the ground that says to the world, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm good at. And then it's about consistency, being out there over and over again, right? Those are like the 3 C's of branding: consistency, clarity, and confidence. But it takes time. It definitely takes time. It takes work. It takes experimentation. And it takes commitment, so that you can't just have a brand and set it and forget it. Branding is ongoing. I always tell my clients it is organic. It's always evolving and pivoting because we are evolving as people. The marketplace is evolving. The competition is changing. Technology is changing. So it's dynamic, which makes it exciting too. But yeah, I'm really proud of the brand that I have built. I've definitely pivoted and things have changed along the way. But I practice what I preach for sure. What I teach, I practice on myself. So yeah, it's been a while. It's taken a while, but I'm really happy with the brand I've created.
I like how you said that because it seems so many people, it's got to be perfect before I'm going to launch it. I hear that all the time, but there's never, ever going to be this moment where it all comes together in this most beautiful way and you're confident enough to bring it to the world, start telling people about it. So how do you help people kind of get over that hump of it needs to be perfect? I need to be on Oprah first. I need, right? All these PR logos. I need to be a best-selling author first, right? If you have an idea, how do you help people then to just get that out there to the world?
Yeah, I know it's funny. Like people think they need to have the perfect website. They need the perfect copy. They need to have the social media feed that is flawless. And you really got to step away from that. That stuff is important. But what's important first is to find a problem that you solve best, right? You need to identify first the problem that you have the skills and the strength to solve that has gone unsolved in the marketplace, that there's a big enough need with your clientele and your audience that they're looking for someone like you. And if you can nail that strategy part first, what is the problem that I solve? What is my area of expertise that I'm really good at, instead of being a Jane of all trades, really narrowing in what your zone of genius is, and then also who you're meant to serve, with the problem that they have, who has that problem? Instead of just saying, women entrepreneurs, is it women entrepreneurs who are in a certain age group, that have a certain season of life, that are in a certain industry, that have a certain, problem? Let's try to get more narrow, because then before we can get the press, before we can have the perfect website, we need to know what our brand is going to do for them. And so we need to get specific, and we need to get a little bit smaller in order to grow bigger in those platforms. So I'm a really big proponent of the niche. We were just talking about that, of like really understanding that specific problem for that specific audience and what specific expertise you have that can solve it. And then let's go invest in the beautiful website and the copy, and let's pitch yourself to podcasts. Because what are you going to talk about in all of those things if you don't know what the problem you solve is?
Yes, it's true. So a lot of branding is going down to the messaging.
Yes.
It sounds, and to have your clear messaging, that clear voice on who you help, what are their problems, how you specifically solve those problems when they work with you in however way, or the products you sell, things like that. I was just at a conference, and it was for financial advisors, insurance agents, brokers. And the one woman came on stage, and she was talking about, emotional intelligence, storytelling, this whole new digital world that we're selling in. And she was, most advisors feel naked if they don't have that printed brochure. And I was dying laughing, because it's true. You have, these old school advisors who have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. And like, I need a brochure. I need something I can hand the clients.
Right.
But if the brochure looks like every other advisor, what's it really telling the clients or the prospects? You could be any advisor. They could trade you in and out. Whereas you're saying, get specific and work with those people that you are meant to serve.
Yes. Like the worst thing is if they covered your brand name and anyone else can fill that, right?
You're like a Canva template. We're just going to swap in whoever we need to.
Yes. And so you want to get more specific. You want to increase your relevance to your ideal client. And how can you do that? Sometimes it is by going smaller and tackling a very specific pain point or problem that's gone unsolved, instead of being more generic. And because when you're generic, you sort of blend in with all of the other financial advisors, all of the other photographers, all of the other brand strategists. But if you can get a little bit more narrow, then it helps you stand out from the competition. And it feels scary, right? A lot of the pushback I get is, I don't want to be put into a box. I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough clients. I'm not going to make enough money. But the truth is, you're not going to make enough money either way if you're talking and saying what everybody else is doing. You're going to be, fighting tooth and nail for those clients. And then you're going to be shopping. They're going to shop based on price versus anything else. You have to offer value, right, to your client. And often the value is, how can you specifically solve that specific problem for them? And then using, your process, your framework, your methodology, and then having the press and the publicity to support your expertise. But the first step is really defining that, getting a little bit more micro so that you could stand out, so you can deepen the connection, so that you can express your authority in a stronger way.
Oh, you said relevant, making yourself relevant. I think that is one takeaway from this episode, as the ladies are listening, watching, is making yourself relevant to the right people who you're supposed to be working with. Now, Mallika, you started out working with some of the biggest companies, corporations. L'Oreal, I have L'Oreal mascara on right now. We've all seen that in the stores. Tell us about your story, how you went from working with these big corporations and now you're helping women entrepreneurs all over become relevant and find their own brands, their own story to tell.
Yeah. So I started after college, right? First job out was in the advertising world, working in New York City, Madison Avenue on corporate accounts. And was
that your dream? I just picture myself watching Sex and the City growing up, right? Like that just seemed, I've made it. I'm working in advertising. I'm in the city. It's sexy. You got the nightlife. Totally.
I come from a family of healthcare providers, doctors, medicine. And so I did not want anything to do with them. And I felt I wanted to be, I wanted to wear power suits.
Creative. You need that creative outlet.
Creative, have that corner office and be in those meetings where you had like storyboards and talking about products. And I did that for a little bit, worked at big agencies on big clients. And what I learned from that, what I take from that to my own personal clients now in the entrepreneurial space, is that we all have a campaign, right? We're all selling a product or service. We all have competition. And so how are we going to position ourselves in the best light where we are offering value, we're expressing our point of difference, and we're building a relationship with our audience so that they stay loyal to us and then help spread the word about us? Right? So it doesn't matter if it's makeup or if it's a financial industry or if you're in coaching, the same principles apply. We're trying to communicate what our value is, and we're trying to differentiate, and we're trying to connect so that we build that clientele. And so all that strategy that I learned, using print advertising, radio, billboards, the strategy is the same if you're doing, a TikTok or you have an email campaign or you're doing a print ad. Everything that you are sharing in terms of your message has to relate to a specific audience, right? Their problem. It's not about us, it's about them and how we can be their guide to getting them to their solution. So I'm grateful for all of that experience in the corporate world because it gives me a better perspective of how I can help, clients, people like us who are just trying to run a successful business.
Yes. You said that we each have our own campaign. When did you then when did you get into photography? You're an amazing photographer. That seemed to be that next step. Am I correct in that? And then.
Because I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, I have lots of pivots and twists and turns. I left the corporate world because I started a family. And then I became an entrepreneur. I had a couple of small businesses under my belt, and then I got into photography. Okay. And my children were young at the time, and I was doing family photography. That's how I started in 2008.
Okay.
And then as my children got older, I kind of didn't want to chase other children. Other people's children.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. And in 2015, I saw a gap in the market, right? And we all have to be looking at our marketplace, really. Where are there holes that you can position your brand and, create a name for yourself. And I saw a gap in brand photography. This is where people were having headshots, but there weren't brand photography. And with the rise of social media, with email, with online, I saw a gap and I said, you know what, I'm just going to go all in. I am going to stop doing the family photography and I'm going to go all in because I can't do it all. My brand was all over the place. And what happens when you have what I call a junk drawer brand is that people don't trust you. You're not a specialist. And that's where finding your niche is so important, because I saw the change in my own business when I niched down to say, stake in the ground. I am a brand photographer. I work with female entrepreneurs to really help them next level their businesses by becoming the face of their brand. Everything changed. And I did that for a long time. I wrote a book about it. And then I found, and this is what happens. You niche and you build your reputation, and then you realize that you are probably doing some really good things in that niche. And for me, it was brand strategy. And then I was able to broaden because I built a name for myself to do photography and strategy. And then now it's funny, fast forward to 2023, and 5% of my business is photography and 95% of my business is strategy and mentorship.
Wow, look at that change. I love that you said you're constantly looking at, where are their problems? Because if there's a problem, there's a solution that you can profit from, that you can monetize on, but also have positive impacts on the people that you're working with. So you saw the rise on social media, email marketing. And when people do a brand photo shoot, and that's, taking pictures, not just that typical headshot that we see all over, especially in my industry, financial advisors, very typical, but interactive pictures or pictures of even like books, things in your office, right? It's a whole array of different kinds of pictures. You're making that kind of investment. Well, you're going to want to best use that investment to get people aware of you, to buy into your mission, to see you, who you are. So having the strategy behind it is almost as important, or would you say more important than just having the pictures themselves? You need both of them. Otherwise, it's just going to fall flat.
Right. And I can tell the photos that don't have strategy because they lack that emotional connection. They lack the storytelling. I always say that these aren't vanity. Brand photos aren't meant for vanity. They are meant to grow your business. They are meant to connect with your audience faster. So these stories that you're telling have to be strategic, and the photographer you work with has to understand your business. They have to ask you the questions about your ideal client. They have to ask you where the vision is. Where do you want to go? Because maybe there'll be some photos that we'll take now to get you there faster, right? So we have to get deeper with the questions that we're asking, the plan that we're making with the photo shoot. Instead of just to show up and shoot and just sort of take some pictures, they have to have intention. They have to have strategy. And you hope that whatever you shoot for your client, that collection can last them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. My clients, they use them forever, really. And they're to do it over and over again because we did the strategy in the first place to understand where their business was going. So yeah, strategy goes hand in hand with the photography, and that photography part, the visibility part, as you know, because I know you invest in photography, is what's going to next level your business, because you're going to be showing up and building that know, like, and trust factor with your audience and really helping you stand out versus the other people in your field that might not be investing in brand photography, right? And it doesn't have to be just the headshot. You want to humanize your brand. You want to tell the story so that people can see themselves, working with you. What does it feel like? What does it look like? How will I feel afterwards? All of those stories are really important to be sharing through your photography and your visual assets.
Yes. So going into a brand photo shoot, you're having all these discussions beforehand. You're not just showing up one day with some pretty clothes, getting your hair and makeup done, but really that allows you to connect with your audience before the pictures are even done, or that energy, that energetic exchange. And I wrote down trust. To me, that's what builds trust. And if you can have the right energy that's coming across in the pictures, the right emotions, all of that just helps build and solidify that connection with your audience, the people you're meant to work with. So that's fascinating. Taking that extra step, to me, that's worth all the money in the world.
And to add to that, it's a confidence builder. When you do
that's a good point.
work, right? When you do the strategic work and you're working with an expert who is helping you identify your mission and your vision, and we're talking about the values and your passions and who your ideal client is and what the marketing plan is, it boosts you as the client, your confidence now. Okay, now I know exactly a plan, and now I can see the photos, and now I could step in front of that camera and I am going to own it because I'm not scared anymore. I feel, empowered by the strategy that we just went through. I
love that.
Excited.
I feel empowered right now, man. I gotta go take some pictures.
But it's a change.
Yeah.
And so, if you just show up with your photographer and they're like, okay, you want to sit at the desk and you want to stand up and here's a microphone, and there's no thought of talking and brainstorming and creative direction. It's hard. It's hard. All the nerves, the anxiety, it all comes to the surface, right? So if you're getting a brand photo shoot, anyone in your audience, make sure you have those strategic discussions first. It will be a game changer.
Yes. I remember reading somewhere, before you launch a course, an event, anything like that, write down 100 reasons people need this. Not even one, but need it. Because we do tend to forget we're so much in our business. We forget all the ways that we're helping people, whether it's the practical ways, the emotional, spiritual, and then also the positive side effects of it, the ripple effect. So not just helping your audience, but then their families and their family's family, right? And their communities, on and on and on. So that it's almost like going into a sports game and you have that pre-huddle with the coach, the team, and you got the energetic exchange going on, or playing some nice music that gets you in touch. Excited.
Well, confidence is a big part of running a successful business, right? So, we need that certainty when we're on a sales call. We need that confidence when we're on stage. And often that confidence comes with self-awareness, self-discovery, knowing yourself, making some commitments in terms of, like, again, the niche factor. When you get narrow and you own something, your area of expertise, you don't have imposter syndrome anymore because you're doing all of the things that I can do that. I feel okay to do that. No, cut it out, edit, go all in on that one lane that you want your reputation to be built on. Then visibility becomes easier because you're already working in your zone of genius. And so you want to share it with the world.
Yes, you do want to share it with the world, and then you help them share it with the world. And I love, because obviously a brand photographer needs to be in your area, or you might travel, but I'm sure there's a cost associated with it. But now, because you also help so much on the strategy and the marketing side of it, you can help women all over the world. They can come to you in virtual, meet in person. I'm sure you have recordings, events, one-on-ones all throughout the year. And then they can find a good, strong photographer in their area that they can execute the pictures with. But you're there prepping, preparing, and making sure they get the most out of the investment they're making into it. So how do you work with women now? I know you moved to Maine 3 years ago, so that I'm sure shifted your business as well, talking about the pivots from before.
Yeah. So moving to Maine 3 years ago, where, at that time, photography was a big part of my business. And then moving in a pandemic where no one's taking photos, I really had to make a pivot and say, obviously photography is going to go on the back burner, and I need to kind of really focus on the strategy and the mentor part. And so I created programs where, people were, at that time, we were all struggling, right? We didn't know what was happening with our businesses. And so I had created a membership at the time to be a brand mentor for people. And so I had a group of about 35 women from all across the country and even the world. I had someone in UK and Kenya. So it was a wonderful pivot that I can now scale my brand, my expertise, and reach more people. And I was never able to do that really with photography. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I kind of realized that this is where my zone of genius is. This is actually what my niche is to do more the brand strategy. And my specialization is helping people find their niche. So now I actually have changed all of my business models, and I only offer a mastermind to try to simplify everything. And I offer it January and September. It's a 4-month container, very small group. And I help people really nail their niche. That's the first step. But then, of course, we work on their branding and their mission statements and their marketing and their offers and their lead magnet. But it all stems from first identifying that niche. Because if you don't know who you're meant to work with, how are you going to do all the other things, right? So, but it's been a wonderful evolution and journey to kind of get here. And I feel, pumped up and excited every day with the people that I'm working with and the new people that I get to meet and help along the way.
Well, you're very on brand because you even started with that clarity, right? You need to be clear on who you're talking to, their problems, the solutions, and we're ending it there as well. That's the first step. So if you aren't clear on that, you're going to talk to everybody. And if you talk to everybody, you're really talking to no one.
Yes. And every industry this can be applied to. I mean, I see it in the financial industry, financial advisors for divorced women, financial advisors for medical professionals who are getting out of residency with all of the debt, right? Like, if you have that problem, I'm married to a doctor who had 14 years of training, right? So if I knew there was a financial advisor that spoke to my problem of how do we get out of debt and how to get on the journey for wealth building, specializing in doctors, why would I go to anyone else?
Yeah, they're talking exactly they know what your problems are. They know the shortcuts to get you there faster. They know any questions you might have, they can.
Yes.
So that's resources for
how the niche really comes in. And I want to apply it to some of, your listeners, your audience, where you can work with people outside of that if you choose to, but if your messaging and your marketing is narrow, it's much easier to attract and to find those people and get referrals and get found on the internet and get, talked about and get put on podcasts and all of those other visibility tools because you are so specific in your niche.
Yes. I love everything that you're doing, Mallika, because you said you're helping people build trust with their audience, get clear on who they have the most impact in serving and helping. You help them become the specialist, which is what sounds like niche marketing equals you're becoming the specialist. Yes. There's credibility behind that. There's so much power. You're now top of mind for those people instead of being one in a million of a million. Now you're one in a million, right? You are that special person people are going to think of and go to. It's amazing. Like, what is one thing people who are listening or watching to this, if they are uncomfortable getting out there, let's say, with pictures of themselves, videos, telling their story, talking to their ideal audiences, maybe it's because they've been pre-programmed that you need to talk to everybody and serve everybody. This happens a lot in our industry, so I'm bringing it up. As we deprogram our advisors and then show them all about niche marketing and branding, what's one thing that they can do to just get themselves out there? And then you said it's consistency.
Yep.
Over and over again. But what's one way they can get out there?
Yeah. So I think it's hard, right? We talk about standing in our power and just owning it and putting blinders on everyone else who's in the marketplace, because sometimes that can be a huge distraction. And so what I tell people, especially when it comes to visibility, is it's really not about us and how we look and how we're dressed, but it's about the transformation that we can give to our clients, the results that we can give to our clients, and being of service to help them get to the improved lifestyle, more wealth in their bank, a legacy, all the things, right? It's bigger than, what we look like and what our age is and the weight that we have. And sometimes those are the humps that people have that are preventing them from going out there. But go back to your mission, the why of why you do this. There is a reason, there's a movement that you're trying to create. And that is bigger than all those other things. And then think about what change you can give to those clients and why they need to hear from you. And that's what should be the catalyst and the encouragement for you to get out there, because it's not about us. It's about them and what we can do to help them improve their lives, gain more wealth, build better connections, have better health, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And so, even when I hesitate and I'm like, oh, there's a speaking gig and I'm scared to be on stage, I think about, okay, it's not about that fear. It's about sharing a message that will help other people in that ripple effect, like you said. It's about going back to why I'm doing this work in the first place. And so if I have this opportunity and I know I want more women to stand in their leadership, then I got to get out there and get over the fear and just suck it up and just keep pushing on, right? So that's what kind of helps me personally. And that's how I kind of coach my clients to think about those two things.
I was going to say, I would recommend people reaching out to you, Mallika, getting a coach, somebody else that's going to help you see how amazing you are and the change, the transformation you're creating in your clients, your audience, their lives. Because sometimes we're so stuck in ourselves and we don't see that ripple effect, or we forget about it because it just becomes part of our daily life.
Right.
So having somebody like you're going to be able to show it to them within minutes, I would guess. Within seconds, you can see what their area of genius is, what's the zone that they should be showing up in, and giving you that confidence to you're here for a purpose, for a reason. We need to show the world that, because the world's going to be grateful that you showed up today for them and to give them that transformation. So you said to get clear on the transformations and have somebody help you get clear on that, because it's going to save you time instead of kind of going in a circle. Mallika's going to see it within moments of being with you.
It's hard. Sometimes we're overwhelmed, right? It's like confusing and we can't get that clarity. And when we have a talk, I could just see it. I don't know what's like my superpower, but I could see it.
It is your superpower.
Yeah. You hear what people are saying, and then I can pull things out and connect the dots and help you get clarity to kind of help you find your niche or your positioning. And then all the other things that support that, your messaging or your website copy, or, where you're going to be visible in your social media, like that all comes after you figure out that core piece first.
Yes. And you can just see when their energy, when their emotions are heightened and they're excited about something, you're going to see it. Whereas that's just, how they think and operate about things. But having you there, as you said, that is your superhero. So where can everybody find you, Mallika?
Yeah. So my website is mallikamalhotra.co. I'm always on Instagram. I'm always sharing tips. So I would love to connect with you there. It's at mallikamalhotra.co, which I know is a lot of letters there, but hopefully there'll be some notes here where you can just.
Yes, there will be the links. Don't worry. We will hook our audience up, because one, her pictures are beautiful. They're amazing. So just follow her to see what she's doing, the pictures, the content she's pumping out. But I've been in her programs in the past. I know Caroline, who's one of our advisors, has been in her program in the past, and she does amazing work. So if you're curious about getting clear on your audience, becoming that specialist, that go-to person, niche marketing, branding, all of that, get involved in Mallika's world. It is amazing. We've known each other for several years now. She has an incredible book. So if you're preparing to launch a brand, refurbish your brand, pivot, get in touch with her. I highly recommend it. But thank you so much, Mallika, for being on Women Behind the Millions. And it's cool because your pictures are showing the women behind the millions and the women millionaires, and they're getting out there. That's what we need. We need more women stepping into their power and letting the world know that they are here to help.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure.
This was a fun episode. It went so fast. And thank you, of course, to our listeners, our supporters of Women Behind the Millions. We will see you on the next episode.